What's cracking, y'all? You are now watching Boo TV. Appreciate you for stopping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified, and let's get into the topic for today. Shortly after Dwayne Wade made comments about how if it wasn't for injuries, he could have been in the GOAT debate, which I'm not going to get into, and I just recently put out a Dwayne Wade video, so I don't want to do another one. Just don't feel like it. So I want to talk about Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid said if it wasn't for injuries, he would be in the GOAT conversation.
Boy, have you lost your mind? Because I'll help you find it.
And Joel Embiid, I disagree, buddy. I vehemently disagree. And you're talented as a mofo. Super talented. Super talented. But that's a big hell no. You would not be in the GOAT conversation, even if you were healthy. And honestly, right now, you're not even in the GOATs of just centers, let alone total GOAT conversation. You are not in that stratosphere for GOAT conversation, and you are not near that stratosphere. Even taking into context your injuries, buddy, I cannot go there. I get it, Joel Embiid. You missed your complete first 2 seasons in the NBA. Stepped onto the scene in your 3rd year. Damn near had a 20-point double-double. Essentially, that was your rookie year, your first year you got to play. And it took a couple years before we saw the Joel Embiid that we know now. 2 years ago, you won the MVP. One of the best offensive players, one of the best defensive players. Last year, you probably would have had MVP again. Your numbers were even better. You're playing even better through the eye test than you were your MVP season. But you didn't hit that magic number of games played to be able to be eligible for NBA awards. I get it. And even if you would have won that second MVP, 2 MVPs in a row, no GOAT conversation for you, buddy. No. And I'm taking your injuries into context. I'm looking at you, Joel Embiid. Forget the injuries. I'm just looking at you when you were healthy throughout your career. How did you play? I'm giving you a pass on the injuries. And that's a hell no. GOAT? No. Conversation? No. Because the last 2 seasons are the best versions that we've seen of you, Joel Embiid. I'm acting like Joel Embiid's watching this video, how I'm talking to Joel Embiid. But I'm talking to the audience, but that's how I talk sometimes. Joel Embiid, it took years of people criticizing you. You not getting butthurt, but accepting constructive criticism and started applying yourself more, changing up your mentality a bit, taking advantage of your advantages that lay before you, and taking your game to the next level. And we finally get to see what that Joel Embiid looks like. In the regular season, Joel Embiid, we know about your playoff history too. You cannot be in that GOAT conversation if you have consistently been a poor performer in the NBA playoffs or a lesser version of yourself in the NBA playoffs. A significantly lesser version than yourself in the NBA playoffs. Hell no. And people will talk about the numbers. Oh, on his career, he's 28 points per game. He's 11 rebounds. He's 3.5 assists. He's almost 2 blocks. Those, when you compare that to other, great centers or GOAT, people in a GOAT conversation, those numbers are comparable. Yeah, sure. But there's a whole lot of information that has to be taken into context, especially era. And that's why I'm less impressed by his numbers. Granted, like I said, he had a spectacular last couple of seasons. But I'm also looking at it like, Joel Embiid, you should have been dominating like this or even more than this. When I think about Joel Embiid, 7'1", a big guy, something closer to a traditional center's body that we're used to seeing in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, that first decade, we were used to seeing from centers. In this small NBA, with outside of Nikola Jokic, really no center that can compare to you. Your opposition are usually guys that look like toothpicks compared to you. Toothpicks or lawn gnomes. And you ain't dropping 35, 36 points per game, 14 rebounds, 4 blocks. Maybe 4 blocks is a little excessive. But come on. That's why I'm not as impressed by his numbers. This guy go through a 82 game season, and the only threat he has to worry about at his position is Nikola Jokic, because the absence of bigs these days, and he only sees Nikola Jokic twice a year. You should be dominating even more in the paint. And he has an exceptional skill set. Could shoot the mid-range, could shoot the three. That's great that he can do all those things. Footwork, left hand, right hand. And he doesn't rely on it as much as he used to earlier in his career. I can admit that. But still, I think he relies on it a little bit too much, and sometimes can fall in love with it a little bit too much. And every time he does that, he is taking the defense off the hook. Get your big ass down in the paint, stay in the paint, and dominate. Take the mid-range jumpers when they're available, but always exert yourself in the paint. And destroy these little lawn gnomes and toothpicks out there. That's why I'm less impressed. I'm more impressed with what bigs used to do in the past that have numbers that are comparable. That's why I say, man, you got to put the numbers in the context. Because I'm thinking about other centers, and on a consistent basis, they were going against true bigs that were either great offensively and defensively, or great just offensively, or great just defensively. But seemed like every other game, or maybe more than that, you had to deal with a star, all-star, superstar, elite, or formidable center that was bringing something your way that you had to deal with on either side of the floor, or maybe both sides of the floor. He ain't got to deal with that in this era of the NBA. So why aren't you dominating more? He ain't got to worry about seeing an Alonzo Mourning. He ain't got to worry about seeing a David Robinson, a Tim Duncan, a Kevin Garnett, all in the same time span, in the same era. You know what I mean? Yeah, like these guys were different. This was dudes you were seeing on a regular basis. Dikembe Mutombo, Shaq. Let's take it back. Moses Malone, Kareem, Willis Reed, Patrick Ewing, Bob McAdoo, Robert Parrish. Hell, you don't even have to deal with somebody defensively like Dwight Howard right now. Don't tell me Anthony Davis. He's too light in the butt. But if you want to throw Anthony Davis out there, even though he really doesn't play center or guard centers, okay, you got Jokic, you got AD, you got Embiid. That's it. That's it. And we all know how soft and fragile Anthony Davis is. Bill Walton, Artis Gilmore, two more that just came to mind. I'm drooling on myself. Come on, man. Don't give me that. These guys was doing what they was doing in eras where they had consistent competition at their position. These boys ain't got to deal with that these days. So that's another way I look at it. Truly. And these guys were putting up numbers just as good or around the ballpark that we've seen from Joel Embiid in his career, or even these last 2 seasons in some areas, or for some players collectively. But they were doing it when it was harder to score in the paint, where there weren't all these little guys. It was more physical. There were bigger guys. There were stronger guys. You could get away with more. And they was getting their buckets then. Or playing their defense then. They was doing what they was doing then. Come on, man. You could say, oh, his numbers are comparable to Shaq's. If you put Shaq in this era, you talking to me about Joel Embiid's 30 points per game and 11 rebounds, Shaq would have been averaging 40 points per game and 15 rebounds. His big ass. But Shaq knew his strengths, and he played to his strengths. And he's more skilled than what people give him credit for. Go watch some actual Shaquille O'Neal footage from Lakers or Orlando days when he was in better shape. Go look. You'll see what I'm talking about. The footwork, the drop step, the baby hook, the left, the right hand, the touch off the glass. He wasn't some big ogre just dunking. That's a myth. People don't believe that. Shaq was skilled. Could some of these guys shoot the three or shoot the long range jumper like Embiid? No. But that doesn't make him less effective. Yeah, Joel Embiid has some other things he can go to. Or he has in his tool belt, should he have to go to it. But when you rely on it too much, you're taking away from other aspects of the game that can make you more effective. I got to look at that. Especially in this NBA when he has a clear advantage every single night. And he's not taking advantage of it as much as he should. But like I said, he's gotten better with it in the last 2 seasons. Nah, bro. Like, I've mentioned people that I think are better than you that aren't even in the GOAT conversation. And these guys have had more healthier careers than you. David Robinson. He's not in the GOAT conversation. But I don't got you ahead of David Robinson, Embiid. Hell no. Did I mention Hakeem Olajuwon? I didn't even mention Hakeem. Now, some people do have Hakeem in the GOAT conversation. I will say that. But you don't touch Hakeem Olajuwon, buddy. I'm sorry. Come on, man. What are we talking about? Joel Embiid isn't even in my top 5 centers of all time, let alone GOAT conversation. Absolutely not. Hell no. I got Moses Malone over Embiid. I got Shaq over Embiid. I got Hakeem over Embiid. Depending on when you want to put Tim Duncan, might have Tim Duncan over. And Tim Duncan played just as much or more center than he did power forward, if we're going to be honest. And like I said, David Robinson, that's 5 right there. Kareem, that's 6. What are we talking about? Nah, shit, I might even put Willis Reed ahead of Joel Embiid. You let me know what you think about it in the comment section. No. Joel Embiid, even if I were to give you ignore your injuries, buddy, you ain't in that GOAT conversation. Especially at your size and your talent and the talent pool. Nah, I can't go there. Great player, but you can tell me, well, look at his numbers. I'm telling you what I see, and I'm telling you what I see in this era of the NBA, and I'm telling you that man has a right to his opinion, and he has all the confidence in the world. But Lord Jesus, no, and don't even talk to me about that until you up your performance in the postseason. No more excuses, doggy. Get it done. And I understand some of the injuries might be freak accidents. People landed on his knee, not really his fault. Things like that. You know, sometimes you're just unlucky. That's why I'm giving him the pass on the injuries. And the answer is still no. Great for what he's doing in this era, all things considered, but I know he could be doing much more. Much more. Great defensive player, too. Can't take that away from him. But when I combine those two things, he still doesn't have the impact Shaq had. Better defensively than Shaq. Still doesn't impact the game as much. And Shaq would be more impactful today. Anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Y'all let me know what you think about it. Do you agree with Joel Embiid or do you agree with me? Let me know in the comment section. I appreciate y'all for stepping in. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, stay notified. Catch you on the next one. We out, baby.